Hello, and welcome to episode 17. Thoughts make the difference. Action alone is not enough. I'm excited for this episode because at the time I am recording this, it is 1 week before I'm rolling out one of my brand new programs that's all about this quote thought work. And I'm excited to dive into this topic on this week's show. I used to think that all I needed to do to feel better in my health and life, to get the results I wanted, whether that was losing weight, having more energy, sleeping better, feeling more relaxed, getting a new job, whatever, I used to think that all I needed to do to get those results was to do all the things, right? To take the action, to stay motivated and take the action. Oh my gosh, that's another podcast, motivation, right? Motivation as the key to reaching our goals is not as important as we think. It's the first step, of course. We need to actually care enough and be motivated. But we need to do so much more than just be motivated and to just want it. I think we get disappointed very quickly in the process of building our healthier, more balanced lives when we think that our drive, desire, and motivation are the keys to getting results. We can have the most intense motivation, but if we don't know how to take the right action, if we don't know how to check our thoughts, and if we don't have access to the right kind of accountability and support, then we will not as easily get these results or keep them. So there I was, always trying to just do the things to get my results, the doing. I never gave much attention to my thoughts around the doing. I never gave much attention to my beliefs about my ability to actually do the things to get the results. I never gave much attention to my thoughts about my ability to lose the weight, to stick with the exercise program. I wasn't really tuned in to the stories that I was telling myself about that. I was just trying to go out and take the action. Did I really believe that I could do what I needed to do to lose the weight? Did I really believe that I could do what I needed to do to have more energy, to get more sleep? Deep down, what was I really thinking about my ability to stick to the diet plan, to stick to the exercise program, to do the new sleep routine? Most of our thoughts, like our actions, run on autopilot. We just keep our thoughts and beliefs on repeat, right? Whatever they are, we just believe them like they're the news. We just keep our thoughts and beliefs on repeat, and we don't really challenge them, or we're not even aware of them. Do you have the thoughts that support your health and life goals? Or are your actions going against what you really think and believe? Now stick with me on this, because if you're like me, several years ago, I would have started listening to a podcast like this and thought, oh my gosh, hokey pokey. It's just all about the doing. Our brain wants our thoughts and actions to match. So I might be doing one thing, but thinking another. In episode 1, I talked briefly about how our thoughts affect our actions and ultimately our results. Let me go back to the example I gave in episode 1. About midway through my year-long health and life coach training, we started focusing on coaching people around their mindsets and beliefs. Prior to this, we had learned how to coach people into action, the kind of action that leads to habits, and I loved that, and we've been talking about that on the show here. But at this point in the program, we were starting to move into the thoughts and mindsets portion. I'll admit, I did not feel like this portion of the training was going to be that beneficial. Boy, was I wrong. I didn't realize at the time how much our thoughts and mindsets, even about the little things, affect our results and influence our action, whether these thoughts are conscious or unconscious. During my coaching training, we had modules and practice opportunities where we coached each other, where we were coached by our instructors, and my partner was coaching me around eating healthy. Eating healthy was something that I was interested in doing. I had had some minor health issues and as a result was trying to clean up my diet a little bit. But my mindset around eating healthy, my belief at the time was that eating healthy was complicated. That's just the belief I held at that time. Eating healthy, it's complicated, and I don't have time to do it. Maybe you have had those same thoughts around eating healthy or nutrition. Nutrition certainly can be complicated, right? It seems like in the media and the news, there's some new diet each year, like, ooh, try this, or try paleo, try keto, try South Beach. And I had experience trying some of these, and it all just seemed complicated. Or one week someone would come out saying this food is healthy, and then in the next week, it's not healthy. And I felt like eating healthy meant ingredients that I wasn't familiar with. I felt like it meant deprivation and also that it would take a lot of time chopping things up, all the macronutrients, and then on top of that being female and having hormone issues and how that affects our metabolism and nutrition, and all of that together made me feel like this eating healthy was just complicated. That was my belief. That was the thought that went through my mind. Little did I know that that belief, that thought, that story that I kept telling myself that eating was complicated was making any action that I was trying to take around eating healthier more difficult. I was actually sabotaging myself because our brain wants our thoughts and actions to match. Now, I'm simplifying this, but it's true. Even though I was taking one kind of action towards eating healthier, my brain was still telling me it was complicated, and then I would sabotage my actions as a result. I also thought that I didn't have time to eat healthy because in my mind, eating healthy took a lot of time to chop vegetables and saute things and adhere to these what I thought were complicated recipes. So my belief was eating healthy is complicated. I don't have time. And every time I tried to take consistent action towards eating healthier, those thoughts on replay would sabotage me, and I would act in the way I believed. So my belief was that eating healthy was complicated and I didn't have time, even though I was motivated and wanted to eat healthier. And boy, my test results were telling me I needed to eat healthier. So again, I had all the motivation. But my thought was that it was complicated and I didn't have time. And so then I would act in that way, that it's complicated. So I would act in that way. So that belief of I don't have time or eating healthy is complicated would show up for me. So I would complain about it like, oh my gosh, I don't have time. I'm too tired to make this. And I would just run into roadblocks with my actions around trying to eat healthier. Our brain is going to look for evidence that whatever we're telling ourselves is true. So because I was telling myself that eating healthy was complicated, my brain was looking for ways to reinforce that thought, and I would act in that way. So I would, think, oh, I want to make this, but it's just, that seems complicated. I'm just going to throw in a pizza. Or, it's just going to take too much time to meal plan. And then I would not have the time. I would get caught doing something else. And I didn't realize that my thoughts were creating this reality. My thoughts were perpetuating the actions that I didn't want to do. So the first step was realizing that even though I was saying I wanted to eat healthier, my brain had this story, this thought about that it was complicated and time-consuming. So my brain would look for evidence that this was true, and my actions would match this. So I would act as if eating healthy was complicated and that I didn't have time. It would be hard to follow through with meal prepping or cooking because those actions went against my thoughts and beliefs. So my coaching partner helped me to shift my thoughts into ones that would better serve my actions and match the actions that I was taking. So instead of saying eating healthy is complicated, I don't have time, I flipped it and said eating healthy is simple. I have time. And the more I kept telling myself eating healthy is simple, I have time, my brain wanted my thoughts and actions to match, so it was easier to act in that way. Like, oh, this is simple. Look at this simple recipe. This is simple. I'll just throw these vegetables in the skillet and stir them up. I do have time. That only took 10 minutes to prepare. That food is simple. I have time. When that was the story I was telling myself, that eating healthy was simple and I had time to do it, it made it much easier to follow through with my actions. Again, because our brains want our thoughts and actions to match. So I became the person that believes that eating healthy is simple. It doesn't have to be complicated. I still believe that, and I throw together these, quote, healthy meals easily. So what do you think about food? Do you think it's complicated to try to eat healthy? Do you think weight loss means deprivation? Do you think working out is something you have to force yourself to do or push yourself to do? If you think that, then your actions will match. You don't have to believe every thought that's in your head, especially around your health goals. You don't have to believe the story that you keep telling yourself that it's hard for you to lose weight. You don't have to keep believing the story that you're telling yourself that you're always rushed, because your brain is going to look for evidence that that's true. You don't have to believe the story that you keep telling yourself that you don't have time to take care of yourself, or that you're not a good sleeper, or whatever it might be. You know what I mean. We've all got the thoughts and the stories, and they might just be outdated. We need to just update our thoughts. So here are some of the thoughts that I had that I needed to update and flip, or at least be conscious of. Here are some of the stories I was telling myself, which made taking action in these areas difficult. So one, like I mentioned, was eating healthy is complicated, so then I would act in that way. Another was, I have to eat before bed. That was another one of my thoughts, like, I have to eat before I go to bed, or I won't be able to sleep, or I'll wake up hungry. And as I learned, like eating right before bed, especially the older we get, that can really contribute to difficulty sleeping or reflux. But literally that was my belief. Like, I am the person that has to eat before bed. Like, I have to eat while I'm lying in bed. I have to eat before I go to bed, or I won't be able to sleep. So then I would act in that way. So I needed to flip that story. Another story I was telling myself was, I can't stick with my osteoporosis exercises. It's too hard. So then I would act in that way. Another story, I'm addicted to sugar. I mean, like, that is legit, right? I do easily get addicted to sugar. But the more I keep telling that story, then my actions are going to match, and I'll find it harder to manage the sugar. Like, oh, I just have to eat ice cream every day, or I can't walk past Starbucks without stopping to get the chai tea latte, because I'm not the person that does that. I'm the person that's addicted to it. So just being aware of those thoughts and then flipping those thoughts a little bit. Another story I told myself was, I don't have time to stop and meditate at work. Like, I'm too busy. And so then I would act in that way. Like, I'm busy and frazzled when I'm at work. That was the thought I had, so then I just acted in that way. That was just a story. And I needed to flip it because I was really getting stressed out at work. So I flipped it. I do have time to stop and meditate at work. And once I flipped that around and I stopped and started meditating at work just for 2 minutes to breathe, I felt so much better. But for a long time, I was telling myself the story that I didn't have time and stop to meditate at work. So it didn't matter what action I was trying to, quote, force myself to do, or how much I read about how much, taking 10 breaths to reset our central nervous system can help. It didn't match the story I was telling myself. So it was hard to do the action. Another story I would always tell myself is, I'm always rushed. I never have time. I used to tell my dad that all the time. I don't have time. I don't have time. I'm always rushed. Well, if that was my thought, then my brain wanted my actions to match. If that's the story I kept telling myself, then my brain would look for evidence that that was true. And I would just continue to act out that story because that's just easier. So step 1 is recognizing that our thoughts and our little stories actually do affect our actions. So be aware of the thoughts that you have, the little things that we say to ourselves, the little digs we might make about ourselves. This can prevent us from moving forward with our goals, no matter what kind of action we're planning to take. So what stories are you telling yourself around your own weight loss, around your ability to get to bed on time, around your ability to do things to have energy? What stories do you believe about yourself, about your ability to take the time to take care of yourself? Whatever it might be, check your thoughts. And next week, we'll talk about how we can flip those thoughts to match our desires and our actions by using something called affirmations. Until then, I want you to notice in the next 7 days what those little stories are that you're telling yourself and how your actions match. Until next time, keep it simple, keep it real.